What's going on, guys? It's Jake. Today I'm going to be going over what I think are the best Valkyries. I'm going to be ranking them from the worst to the best, and I'm not just going to be judging them on how good they are. I'm going to be judging them on how they look, the parts that they come with, etc. So let's just get right into it. So before I start this list, I do want to say that just because I put a Valkyrie low on the list doesn't mean that I hate it. And it also doesn't mean that, it is the objective what's best, This is just my opinion. It's what I think. And if you guys don't agree with me, that's okay. And you can make your own list if you want. I'm also only going to be talking about the mainline Valkyrie releases. So Cosmo Valkyrie from the latest random booster, I'm not going to talk about. So there are 7 Valkyries that have released so far, mainline ones. And let's just hop into which one I think is the worst, or at least it's my least favorite. And it's a bit of a hot take. You may not agree with me, but it is God Valkyrie. The reason why this is at the bottom of my list is just because I thought the Bay was kind of ugly. I mean, you had Valkyrie V1, or Victory Valkyrie, with its kind of big blades, which I thought were really nice. And then they evolved it with God Valkyrie, which had wings, and it just didn't seem as aggressive. The blades didn't really do nearly as much, and the whole spring gimmick on the blades also kind of sucked, to me at least. It's easily my least favorite looking Valkyrie, and I'm sure they fixed it since then, I'm not really too sure, but whenever I first got it, the reboot on mine kind of sucked. It didn't really do what it was supposed to, and whenever it did, it just was a lot weaker than I thought it would be, and there's really not much to talk about here. I don't hate it, but I don't really care for this Valkyrie that much, so let's just move on to the next one. Before we move on though, if you guys could hit that like button down below, try and get this video to 1,000 likes, that would be awesome. You guys have been knocking the support out of the park recently, so let's try and hit 1,000 likes. But anyways, let's move on to the next one. Number 6 on my list of favorite Valkyries and least favorite Valkyries is actually going to be Valkyrie V1, the very first one, and it's down this low not because I hate it or anything. It was a great introduction to the series, but I mean, it's just so basic compared to the other ones that I really just cannot put it that high. And also, guys, just to be honest, I got into Burst when dual layers were coming out. I was kind of a year late getting into it, so I don't really have that nostalgia connection to Valkyrie. I got it later on, and I got the Hasbro one, I got recolors, and they were fun at the time, but I never really had that connection to it. So overall, it's a fun Valkyrie. It was a great place for the series to start, but the other ones are just a lot cooler to me, so that's why it's this low. Now, the next one on the list is going to be pretty interesting, and it is a hot take, that's for sure, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to disagree with me, but the next one on the list, which is number 5 on my list of 7, is going to be, it's tough to say it, Winning Valkyrie. Now, before you guys get up in arms, I will say Winning Valkyrie, I liked the layer a lot. It's really interesting looking. I like the shape. I like the metal on it, and I liked that layer at the time, but I'm also judging it based on the other parts that come with it. 12 is basically useless to me, and it was damaging other bays for a little while. That was kind of a story when the bay first came out. And Volcanic is probably one of my least favorite drivers in Burst in general. So while I like the layer portion and it has some pretty good teeth, it has a nice shape to it, I like the way it looks, just having 12 and Volcanic, I really did not like it. I did not like that aspect. I didn't really like how the bay performed. It didn't really have that great of stamina, but whenever it made contact with another bay, that was when it was pretty cool. And it was really tough to put it this far down on the list because I've said I liked Winning Valkyrie before, and I do. It's just the other parts that come with it really kind of suck to me. Now, number 4 on my list, and honestly, guys, it was really close. It was really hard to choose between Winning Valkyrie and the one I'm about to talk about because they're very close, and it was really, really hard. But the next one on the list, so number 4, is going to be Victory Valkyrie. Now, the reason why I like this base so much is I just really like the way it looks. I like how it was introduced in the anime. It was the first one we saw in the anime, and it was one of my first dual layer bays in general, getting back into Beyblade Burst. So I kind of have this kind of nostalgia for it. Also, variable. I like variable a lot more than I like volcanic. That's just kind of that's just kind of my opinion on it. It's kind of hard for me to describe how I feel about it. But I liked variable because it could wear down and it could eventually turn into a giga flat. So after using Valkyrie a lot, your performance is going to change just because of how much you use it. Something that does kind of suck about Victory Valkyrie though is that when it first released and for a little while afterwards, the wings were not reinforced, which means that there was a lot of breakages and I got kind of scared that I would break mine. I never ended up breaking it, but some people did. That does kind of suck, but overall I like it. That is just my opinion, and I know it might be kind of crazy that I put it above winning Valkyrie, but that's just how it is, bro. That's just how I feel. Next up on my list, so number 3, and this one, you know, might be kind of interesting, and I don't really know if I should include it or not, but I am going to. It was not a release, really. It was kind of like an upgrade to God Valkyrie, and that is Strike God Valkyrie. And I know it might be kind of weird for me to include this because it was not released on its own, but it was pretty significant in the show in Beyblade Burst God or Evolution, depending on which one you watched. And I really like this because I like the way it looked better. I think the Strike God chip definitely made God Valkyrie look more interesting. It also, at least on the Takara Tomy one, it locked the wings together, so you didn't have that weird God Valkyrie spring gimmick on the layer, which I really did not like at all. You guys might like it, and it might have some of its uses, whatever, but I did not like that whole spring thing going on, and this locks it back. But the main reason why I like Strike God Valkyrie is because of Ultimate Reboot. And the reason why I liked Ultimate Reboot so much is because it actually worked in comparison to Reboot. I know some of you guys are going to say, oh, my Reboot works, but for me, it just did not work that well, or at least maybe I expected it to be better than it was. But Ultimate Reboot completely fixed all of that, and it also kind of reminded me, made me a little bit nostalgic for Big Bang Pegasus, which came out back in the Metal series years and years ago at this point. So it kind of took me back to when I was a kid a little bit, and I don't know, maybe I shouldn't include Strike God Valkyrie on this list, but I just really had to because I just liked it quite a bit. We are now into the top 2. These are my 2 favorite Valkyries, and you know which 2 are left, and so you're probably not going to be surprised on where I put number 1 or where I put number 2. But just moving on, my number 2 favorite Valkyrie is Slash Valkyrie. Now, the reason why I put Slash Valkyrie so high on the list is because I just love the GT system in general. I don't know if I've said it before in any of my videos, but I think that GT, while I wish the anime was different, I wish it was longer, I wish we got some different characters back, I wish it was still on TV instead of YouTube, I think the GT Beyblade system is the best that we've had from Burst. I just love it a lot. I love that you can interchange the layer parts. You can take the Valkyrie chip and put it on a defense base. And that's just something I really, really liked. And I just really, really like the way that Slash Valkyrie looked. The colors were spot on. It was vibrant. It just had the same shape as winning Valkyrie and Valkyrie V2, and it didn't really do anything crazy to try and change that like God Valkyrie did. I don't know, it might be kind of weird. It might be kind of weird that I put this Valkyrie so high on the list just because I like the layer, even though I put winning Valkyrie so low on the list because I didn't like the other parts. So yeah, this list is kind of weird. Also, while I don't really know if it's useful at all, I did like the Blitz disc. I thought that was kind of interesting, and I liked its shape, and it was just a little bit different than the other discs that we have gotten with Valkyrie before because it was bulkier. But the only thing I don't really like about this Valkyrie is power, the driver, and that's because its gimmick is that it's like spring-loaded. It's kind of like an attack version of nothing. So whenever the tip goes into the driver a little bit, it should make the Bey harder to burst, and it kind of does whenever you're testing it in your hand. But the spring is strong enough to, while you're battling, it's not really going to do that much. And overall, it was a gimmick that was that's cool in the anime, and we'll see it later on, and it was cool for marketing. It just didn't really work as well as I was really wanting it to. So power, it's fun, but the gimmick doesn't really work that well. The layer, I love the GT system in general, and that's really the reason why I put it so high on the list. And then Blitz, the disc, was pretty fun as well. But now we're moving on to my favorite Valkyrie, and it's kind of interesting that I put this one at number 1 because just a month before it came out, I was saying that I didn't really like it that much, and that is Josie Valkyrie. I absolutely love this Beyblade. It is probably, oh man, I haven't really thought about it, and that's kind of hard. I was about to say it's probably my favorite release in Burst in general, but you know, Spriggan Requiem was pretty great as well, so maybe I'll make my own list on that, my top 5 favorite, or my top 5 or top 10 favorite Burst Beys in general from season 1 all the way up to season 4. But man, Josie Valkyrie, I just love it so much, and it's because it's just so bulky. But it's not just bulky as in like it has a big driver like Octa or Charge or something. It's bulky, but it moves around the stadium really quick, and it just makes some really, really big impacts. Also, while I'm against burst stoppers being used on a lot of releases, it was really cool to see burst stoppers at least on Josie Valkyrie. And I don't think I've ever had my Josie Valkyrie burst. Or if it has, it's so rare that I honestly don't remember. And while I don't know how competitively viable it is, I really like the Zenith disc. And that's because, I'm gonna let you guys in on a little bit of a secret, I don't really like frames that much. I don't really know why, but I just always thought frames were kind of useless. Like, they did things, and they were, you know, people do use them for combos, and what frame you use does matter. Like when Bump was pretty overpowered for a little while, and that was being used all the time. But I would rather my disc be a little bit more unique, I guess. Like, I prefer gimmick discs like Power and Hurricane over just having a basic disc like Zero and putting a frame on it. And like I said earlier, I liked Variable on Valkyrie V2. It's not really the best in terms of, you know, performance or anything like that, but I really like how using it over time, and if you use it a lot, the rubber would wear down. And then the Evolve driver that comes on Josie Valkyrie is pretty much the same story. It's kind of the same thing, just kind of upgraded. So overall, just Josie Valkyrie had a nice layer. It was really nice looking. It had burst stoppers, and it was really cool in the anime as well. The Zenith disc was pretty refreshing when we have a sea of just discs that were basic. They couldn't even have frames on them, or we just had recycled discs that we had before. It was just different at the time. And then Evolve was just an upgraded version of Variable, which I really liked. And that is the reason why Josie Valkyrie is number 1 on my list of favorite Valkyries. But that's pretty much gonna wrap up this list, guys. If you liked it, make sure you hit that like button down below, and I'm interested to see what you guys think of my list. If you did not agree with me, then make your own list in the comments down below. Also, guys, if you want me to do more lists and stuff like this in the future, then let me know in the comments down below. I'm thinking about doing a top and least, like a favorites and least favorite Spriggans list, kind of like how I did for this video. So if you guys want to see that, then let me know. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Hit that like button. We're trying to get to 1,000 likes, and hit that subscribe button. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Have fun, and bay away.